We're doing the unthinkable. We're making accounting sexy again. And I say sexy again because actually it really was right in the very beginning. It was all about what business really has as its foundation. But then it became a little bit mundane and kind of compliance driven. And it really wouldn't be possible to toss out the grey stage shoes without the visionaries who are embracing the way that the cloud and technology have helped us reimagine the way we think about the old admin side of business. I'm your host, Michael Avery, and today we've got a special guest joining us, Simon Magner, who's the Managing Director and founder of Iridium, which is an innovative accounting firm recognized as the 2023 Xero Partner of the Year in South Africa. With a background as a CA, Simon ventured into the world of cloud accounting, where Xero played a pivotal role in Iridium's growth journey. Simon, great to have you on the show. Firstly, you could just tell us by contextualizing the conversation a little bit more about who Iridium is and what your relationship with Xero entails.
Thank you, Michael, for having me here. So quick kind of summary. Who is Iridium? We're a cloud accounting business that provides outsourced financial management on a monthly basis to SMEs, which differs slightly from the standard accounting perception of an annual accountant who does your compliance. So we really partner with the clients and be their accounting division. We've seen a trend, fortunately, over the last while where people want to focus on what they're excited about in a business and not do the accounting in-house. So the idea with partnering with professional firms like ourselves sounds like a really good idea, because most people don't get into business because they want to do the accounting. They get into business for the exciting part of business. And so we get to do the unexciting part for them, but a part that we really enjoy. So that's like a really good win-win. And Xero was a perfect kind of tool for us. It's kind of a perfect kind of convergence between technology and accounting that made it actually a cool space to be in. You know, I probably wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for tools like Xero that made the market interesting.
As a CA, and given what you've just discussed about businesses and SMEs in particular, not wanting to specialize in that part of the business, rather partner with someone who is passionate about that, who is a specialist. I mean, it's one thing seeing a gap in the market and quite another to say, right, you know, I'm going to leave kind of the safe shores of salaried employment and start a business. What inspired you to start Iridium?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably twofold, Michael. I mean, the first thing is I've always been excited about creating things. I've always liked to be responsible and kind of take a bit of a risk in life. And I think from junior school, I was always the kid selling something at the market day and knocking on the neighbors' doors and washing their cars and getting my younger brother to walk up and sell Easter eggs at Easter time to the neighbors. And it was always about generating something. And that's always been fun. And I think my family never had a lot of money when I was a kid. So it was an opportunity to look after ourselves, but also generate something that we could use to look up, to buy that next, Sega Mega Drive game or whatever we wanted to do as a kid. So that was really exciting. I think the other thing is when you realize you want to create things, you want to be responsible, you also realize you're not a good employee. I don't think I make a good employee because I don't like to follow rules. I don't like to be told what to do. But I'm fully happy to take the responsibility when things don't work out. So I think it's kind of a unique blend of people who want to run their own businesses because they want that responsibility. They're happy to make it work. And they've got that inquiring mindset that says, if it doesn't work, I don't take it personally. I'm just going to keep iterating until something works. And then everyone goes, you're amazing. You got so lucky. And the reality is I just kept trying until it worked.
Yeah, it reminds me, and that is the core often of entrepreneurs that I chat to. And Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, has gone viral recently for a talk he gave to MIT. And he said, you're amongst the best and the brightest and most privileged, and you've all got very high expectations, but not many of you are actually going to be successful. And they're kind of, shock and awe. He says, but you need to have some struggle in your life. You need to develop some resilience and grit. And so I wish upon you great suffering in order to find that. And I think often that's a common ingredient that I find in entrepreneurs. They've had some crucible in their lives that's developed that resilience and that grit and given you that determination to continue iterating until you succeed. When you look at the vision for Iridium, can you just share with us what that is that drives Iridium forward every day in a market that is starting to become quite competitive?
Sure. Yeah, I think we've always had an inquiring mindset. We've always want to get better. And I think myself and my brother who run the business, we've always had the impression that we don't know everything. And we're very happy to ask other people for ideas. So that idea that we haven't made it, even though we, as you nicely put, we got Xero Partner of the Year last year, we don't think we've made it. We think there's a long way to go to get there. And we like to high-five ourselves when things go well, but we realize there's so much more that we want to do. So what we realize is we have a skill set where we understand numbers and we understand finances, and it's intuitive to us as business owners. Most business people don't have that kind of understanding. We also realize that we're willing to kind of challenge the status quo of how things operate. And I personally think a lot of businesses are broken in the way they operate. I think there's this kind of drive towards money, and we've seen all the corporate scandals over the last few years where it's very money focused. This is kind of the crazy thing is we run a financial services or accounting business where money is not in our vision. That's not kind of our focus because, and you can laugh because it's true, because why would an accountant not have money at the focus of their business? For us, it's not about the money. What it is about is we realized we came into this because we like supporting people who want to have their vision met. So we want to partner with those SMEs. If you're going to partner with SMEs and make an impact in this country, you need to have some kind of scale, and you need to impact enough SMEs that are going to have a knock-on effect. And the awesome thing about our space is we get to help SMEs who have their own families and networks that they're supporting, and they are employing other people who have their networks. So the knock-on effect and the ripple effect in our space is immense. Currently we have a team of just under 60 that we have supporting SMEs, and we've got about 250 SMEs we support. And across those 250 SMEs, they are employing about 3,000 to 4,000 people, who obviously then have families that are supporting 4 or 5x of that. So what our vision or our BHAG is, which is your big, hairy, audacious goal, we decided it needs to be based on people. Because in effect, we're in the people business. We just happen to be good at talking numbers. So our people goal is we wanted to get to 150 people in our organization that are all professionals that are adding great value to SMEs. And those 150 people should be supporting around about 1,000 SMEs. And if those 1,000 SMEs are focused on solving the unemployment problem, then they should be employing about 10 to 1 ratio of employees to company. So then we're going to impact 10,000 employees. Now that feels like impact, and that's what we're excited to do, to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, that will certainly get you out of bed and running through brick walls, through the inevitable hard patches and difficulties that the South African operating environment and the headwinds of slow growth and load shedding and everything else typically throw at you. But you've kind of forged on through that, and it's on the back of that vision, clearly. When we look practically at how you then are executing on this and how you as Iridium are collaborating with small business owners, what are the kinds of services that you offer to support their growth and success? How does that collaboration come together?
Yeah, so I think the easiest sales pitch in the world is our business pitch, because when you talk to a business owner and they're a consultant or they're providing some kind of product service, they're really excited about doing that work. And all the other compliance and financial aspects of their business, they're not really that excited about doing. So when we talk to someone to say, how are we going to help you? Our offering is this: you know your clients. You've got a relationship with your clients, and you know exactly how you want to charge your client for the service or product you're providing to them. And that's your only job you have to do. We're going to give you an online platform, Xero, which is super easy to use. It's like logging into your Facebook account or your LinkedIn account. Really intuitive, very simple, not complicated words. And we're going to show you how to raise an invoice for your customer on an online platform. And once you've raised that invoice, which is going to take you 30 seconds, you're going to click send in the product, and it's going to send that invoice directly via email to your customer. And that's the end of your responsibility from a financial point of view. We're going to take over everything else. We're going to make sure that your bank transactions are coming into the product directly through an API. We're going to make sure that every single item that goes in and out of your bank account is going to be allocated on a regular basis. And you're going to get reporting from us on a monthly basis, but you can also log in anytime you want to, and you can see how your business is doing. So it's full transparency, visibility. What I see is what you see. When it comes to doing your payroll and dealing with SARS, which is what normally most people get scared about, that's our responsibility, and we'll keep talking to you and making sure you know what's going on. And the list of things we do is 20 or 30 long. And what we think people like to have, and it's our model, is we charge one fee per month. It's a flat fee. It's almost like an employee you would pay. So you know what you're in for. If it takes me 10 hours or 100 hours a month, the same fee is going to apply. So it's in my best interest to grow efficiencies and make the process work better. And if you need anything, you pick up a phone or you drop us an email and we'll sort it out. So that's our goal, to kind of demystify everything else and make you just focus on growing your business.
Yeah. And, as someone who's had to deal with, chasing up on outstanding invoices and onboarding on Oracle systems to be vendor registered and then following up with BEE compliance, I mean, there's a lot of time that is sucked out of the really fun stuff of why I, as a media entrepreneur, get into business, and that is collaborating with partners, telling stories, and sharing these incredible stories to my audience. And I can just see the value in this, the value in automating some of those administrative tasks and maybe having a bit more of a dashboard view. But from your perspective, I'm sure you understand the benefits better than most. Can you just elaborate on some of the key advantages of automation for business owners?
Sure. And I think this is why I get into this business, or I got into this business, Michael, and why we're still in it today. Something as simple as a supplier invoice. Most people, currently even and historically, would have taken a supplier invoice that gets emailed or given to them, and they would put it in a file. They would then give that file to their accountants, and off they would go. One of the most amazing things about automation is you can literally have an app on your cell phone that when someone gives you a physical invoice, you take a photograph of that invoice and you click upload, and then that physical invoice goes in the bin. And if someone emails you an invoice, you click forward on that email without doing anything, and you just forward that to an email address that's been set up. And that's going to end up in your accounting system within a few seconds. And I think that's what's really powerful, that OCR technology, which basically just means the computer program reads the invoice. It's not just taking an invoice and dropping it somewhere. It's actually taking it, dropping it somewhere, reading all the information on that invoice. It's taking out the supplier name, the date, the value, whether there's VAT or not VAT, and it's populating what that data looks like. And you can either then just go, I agree, or you can tell it, I don't need to agree because you're right every time. And from you clicking a button to say, take a photograph, within a minute, it's actually in your accounting system waiting as something you need to pay. Now, that's the power of technology and automation, in that historically it might only arrive in that system 5-6 days later after someone spent 10 minutes capturing it. It's now got there within 1 minute. No one spent any time doing it. And at the end of the week, when you go to decide on who you're going to pay, which we know early payments makes businesses work faster and make it work much better, you know exactly who you owe, what you need to pay, when you need to pay. And because your bank account, the second part of the automation, all South African banks integrate directly into Xero. So all your transactions that are coming in and out of your bank account on a daily basis are coming into this program. So again, the historical take out a PDF or a printed bank statement and manually capture, that process has gone away. So straight away I've talked around process reduction in the capturing and the bank. A lot of bookkeepers and accountants are now getting scared, going, you're taking my job away. Did you taking away that thing that I get paid for, that I know is going to take me a lot of hours? But the reality is the automation that products like Xero and other programs are offering is taking away the admin intensive elements of accounting, and it's speeding up the process of capturing to get you data quicker and faster. And what that means is accountants need to adjust their process to move away from that lower value offering of just processing and compliance, and then moving into that ability to say, I've got information much quicker. Now I can actually give you feedback on what you should do. Whether you're going to be short at the end of the month to pay your suppliers, how much money you need for this, where you at with this, and that visibility becomes a lot better. So the demystifying of the kind of whole accounting, space and simplifying information, I think allows business owners to make quicker and better decisions of where they're at. And when they realize actually they're in a tight spot, they can go to other tools that actually provide short-term funding. So one of the tools that we love using for our clients is when you get to the end of the month, if you're short of cash to pay salaries or to pay SARS, you know that if you don't pay salaries, you're going to have a riot on your hands and people are going to walk out, or it's going to cause uncertainty. And we all know that if you don't pay SARS, there's a 10% fine waiting for you the next day. And that's just straight across the board. So if you owe SARS 100,000 Rand at the end of the month, if you don't pay it on the 31st of the month, on the 1st of April, you have 110,000 Rand owing. Now, for that 10,000 Rand cost, that's a significant number to business owners. You can go to a third-party lender, and their tool connects directly into Xero and extracts data. And yesterday, I did it for someone, and within 2 hours from application, money was in the bank account, and they could pay their salaries and pay their SARS bill. Now, you go and speak to a traditional bank, that's unheard of, within 2 hours to have money in your bank.
Yeah. I mean, one can only really do that exactly if you're running a personal overdraft or something like that. Now, I mean, you mentioned the term admin automation. How does Xero contribute to streamlining administrative processes for small businesses?
Yeah, so I think some of the biggest admin processes in a business is following up on customers who haven't paid you. You've done the work, you've executed your work, and now you pay some admin person in your team to follow up 10, 15 times with phone calls and emails. And by the 7th phone call, you find out they don't have the invoice. So something like that's really painful in a business. With Xero, one of the tools that I find the most functional is once you've sent out an invoice digitally to the customer, they can go back to the email whenever they want, obviously, and get that invoice. But there's an automated reminder that you can set up in the back end at whatever interval you decide. And what Xero's default setting is, which is really good, is when it hits the due date and it's gone 5 days over or 7 days over, it's going to send a nice friendly reminder. Hi, Michael, you have missed your deadline for paying your invoice. Apologies if we missed it, but can you please settle? And then 7 days after that, hey, Michael, it's now 14 days late. I'm concerned that you haven't paid. And then a week after that, Michael, what's happening? Where's the money? And you can accelerate kind of how your messaging works. And I think what's really powerful about that is it's a hands-off approach as a business owner. But the most amazing thing happens the day after those emails goes out. Money arrives in your bank account because customers now realize, oh, flip, I better pay because, Simon just reminded me to pay his invoice. And all that kind of process would have taken a lot of time for someone to manually one by one send invoice reminders. So now I'm doing all that invoice remindering automatically, and I'm clicking 2 buttons and all the statements are going out. That again normally would have been a whole day process for one of your admin people.
And building up that data repository to help your accountant, as you say, raise their service to a more strategic level to say, right, we now have historical data. We can see who tends to be, paying late. And if you want to improve that behavior, maybe start incentivizing with a 2.5% discount for early settlement or something like that. And you can start feeding that back into your cash flow and improving it that way. I mean, there's so many ways you can now use this data to really enrich the business. I'd love to hear about your personal experience with Xero and how the platform has impacted your journey with Iridium. You said earlier that you owe a great deal of your success to Xero. What makes it stand out in the world of cloud accounting software?
Yeah, I mean, I think just over 10 years ago when we started our business, we kind of came across Xero pretty early on. And one of the things that was really amazing about the people at Xero, and that made us want to work with everyone, is it didn't feel like anyone was trying to sell us a product. The culture across the organization was, we're here to help you. We're here kind of for the long game. And we want to make sure that you're successful in what you do. And we're going to teach you how to run a digital accounting practice. And I had my early kind of account manager from Xero connected me with someone who was based in London, who had kind of been one of the top Xero practitioners in London. And they organized a couple of Zoom calls with that person to ask the questions that you really need to ask, of like, how do you do it? What's the tough questions you have to ask yourself? And how do you get successful? Now, that's definitely not going to sell Xero software in the short term, but they're playing the long-term game of how can we help you? So I think that was a really pivotal thing that we found, that every other product provider we spoke to was only interested in selling a product to us, whereas Xero wanted to help us build a business and support us in our journey. And they connected us with so many different organizations who understood this idea of digitizing the process. So, telling a client to move to Xero does not mean you're a digital accounting business now. But changing all your processes and thoughts around how you operate, that is a digital approach to accounting, and it's digital first, which is what Xero also has got going for them, is that most other product providers, in fact, I think all of them, were a desktop-based software in the origin, or in their origins, and they realized the cloud was where it was happening. So then they started migrating desktop software to an online cloud-based server, and they said, we've got a cloud product. But they haven't got a cloud product. They've got a desktop product hosted in the cloud. Whereas Xero from day one has always been designed as a web cloud-based product, and there was never kind of that historical architecture of being a desktop product. And I think that's what sets it apart as well, is that everything has been, how can we make a pretty, clean, easy to use product? And if you log into Xero, the words that they use shows that kind of understanding: money coming in, money going out. Not using like debit and credit and confusing accounting lingo. And I think to show you how powerful it is, one of our earlier customers was a plumber. Now, when you normally speak to a plumber, plumbers are great on their tools. They can fix any problem. But when it comes to admin, they are terrible. We had one of our plumbers who came to me one day and he said, Simon, I know how to run my business finances. I just log into the app on my cell phone. It refreshes all the transactions in the morning. And I allocate who's paid me and what I've paid for. And for the first time in my life, I actually know what's going on. And I was like, wow, this has really demystified something that was kind of like a black hole theory. Something went in, something came out, but most business owners never knew what happened in the middle. But we've now taken a product that's made it so easy that a plumber actually feels he's in control of his finances. And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I'm pretty powerful. I mean, that's hugely powerful. If you just think about all of the small businesses out there, the builders, the bucky brigades, the guys that come in and, might do a 50, 60K job upgrading a cottage in someone's home. And you look at them and they know what they do, to your point about the plumber. But their finances probably need a bit of work, maybe a little bit leakier than the plumber's pipe jobs. And this is the way we help them. This is the way we can make real impact in South Africa. Jack Ma came to the country a few years ago and he said, we've got to be making our entrepreneurs, our SMMEs, our everyday heroes. That's what they did in China. And look at where China is today. And I think it's through these kinds of technological evolution, some call them revolutions, that hopefully we're going to get to that place. Simon, thanks so much for sharing your passion and your expertise for helping SMEs with us here on Business Talk.
Pleasure, Michael. Thank you for having me.